Hi there. My name is Shelley Grafstein. And first, I want to thank you so much for taking out the time to watch this replay. I know how crazy busy it is before the chaggim, and every minute is precious. So I really hope that you will get a lot out of the few minutes that I'll be speaking, and I'll try to keep it short. So my name is Shelley Grafstein. I'm a mother of 5 children. I'm Baal Tshuva. I became religious right after I had my first child. And all 5 of my kids were raised in an Orthodox home, and they received a good day school education in Toronto and then in Israel. So don't know what happened, but I have 2 boys, and both of my boys decided to choose a different path. And I just wanted to talk about tips that have worked for me and are working for me, and things that I wish I knew when I first found out. My sons remind me of things I said and things I did when they first chose a different path. And kids remember every negative thing you've ever said. So I want to prevent you from having these words or emotions escape, because we can never get them back. We can apologize, but they're embedded in our kids' psyche. Okay, so we don't know where we are in the story of where our family's going. We're in a chapter in this huge book, and we have no idea how it's going to end. And we have no idea even where we are in the story. Okay, we just know we're somewhere in the middle or the beginning, even. You know, God willing, these kids will live 120 years. We have no idea what will happen. And I want to tell a story of when I lived in Toronto. We had a neighbor who had a family, and he and his wife became religious when his children were early teens to mid teens. And one of his teens, his older teen, totally rebelled, didn't want anything to do with Judaism. And I remember seeing his son eating. We had a pizza store called Pizza Pizza in Toronto, and his son would be eating pizza with the bacon and the ham and the cheese on his front porch while the family had Shabbat dinner. And the father of this family was so distraught. He's doing the best he can for his kids, and here his kid is rebelling. And to make a long story short, 5 years later, his son would no longer eat. That same son would no longer eat in his father's home because it wasn't kosher enough. We have no idea how the story will end. If I would have told this neighbor that your son would be so religious that your level of kashrut would not be enough for him, he would have laughed himself silly. Hashem has a great sense of humor, and we just don't know when he's going to be laughing. Okay, so having 2 kids on a different path has its challenges, also has its upsides, and I choose to focus on ways to develop my kids and my relationship with my kids, and realize that their religious practices is only one part of a huge circle called parenting. And we can't judge our parenting just on one aspect. I always said I wanted to raise mensches. That was my overriding goal. And I raised great kids. My kids are really, really awesome. Okay. So I now have my 2 boys living at home. My oldest son is 25. He hasn't lived at home since he was 17, and he moved back home. And it's working out great. I respect his choices. He respects mine. And it's working great. My other son is 18. He hasn't left home yet. But it's great. You keep your arms open, and they feel free to come home when they want. So I want to just say a little bit that we aren't responsible for anyone's behavior except for our own, okay? And that includes what other people say about us, our family, our boys, our girls. It's a reflection on them, okay, what these people are saying. It's not a reflection on you, and it's not a reflection on your kids. And God forbid we ever live our lives to please other people. Then we would be so untrue to our values, okay? It's so important. We do what's good for us and our family, and what other people say, it's none of our business. It is their issue. So one of the things I was thinking of, it's so easy, I do it all the time, to say how disappointed we are that our kids aren't from. And we say, I gave them a great day school education. I turned my life upside down. I became Baalei Tshuva. I gave up all these gashmias things to live a life in Israel. I've showed them the beauty of Torah. I live it. I show them what an elevated life we live. And they have chosen something else despite all the evidence we've provided. So I want to ask you, are you at your perfect weight? Do you exercise enough? Do you ever smoke or drink or speak Lashon Hora or spend hours on Netflix or scrolling through Facebook? Don't get enough sleep? No matter how much we know on an intellectual level that something is not good for us or is good for us, we do it anyways. So instead of pointing our finger at what our kids aren't doing, what we wish they would do, we should look inwards and think, what are some of the things I should be doing to improve myself and elevate myself instead of worrying so much about what they're doing? Kids look at what we do and how we behave much more than what we say. And they can see through so much hypocrisy. They have a nose for hypocrisy. Okay. So who do I want to become? So this Rosh Hashana, I went online and I looked up a whole list of midot, and I divided it into two groups. The midot that I think I do pretty well in, and the midot that could use a lot of work. And I was actually quite shocked because my list of midot that I was happy with was 3, and the ones I needed to work on was basically 27. So I see I have tons of room for improvement. So who do I really want to become? What do I want said of me at the end of my life, in 120 years? And the best way to get those things to be said about you is to become that person now. Start becoming her. You want to be known as someone who is very philanthropic? Start becoming that person now. You want to be known as someone who's a good friend? Reach out and contact your friends. There is no time like the present to create the future. Yesterday, I heard a story online. I call it the mask story, and I think it's appropriate to what we're talking about. So there was a young man who lived his life. He was very miserly. Always looked at his life as full of issues. The cup was always half empty if it had anything in it. And he met a young woman, and he was captivated by her positivity, her demeanor, everything about her, and he wanted to date her, but he had this permanent scowl on his face. So he went to a mask maker, and he asked the mask maker to make him a mask of a happy disposition. So he put it on his face, and he met this young woman, and when he was with her, he was so happy, and he acted happy, and he said, please and thank you. He always looked for the bright side of every situation. And this went on for a couple months. And then one day, someone he knew who was jealous of his success with this young woman said, I'm going to show this guy up. And he found the young woman and this man on a date, and he said, I know who you really are. And he went up and he ripped the mask off his face. And the face underneath was exactly the same as the mask, because he had become who he wanted to be. And we all have that potential. We just have to change our actions and our mindset. So don't think I can't or it's impossible. Impossible, I heard, is avodah zarah. We have to take the im out and say it is possible. Or I was thinking in Mirat Hashem, it's got like the im. So maybe impossible just became or maybe it is Mirat Hashem possible. And then people just shortened it to it is impossible. But it is possible. If we believe it, we can do our best to make it happen. Okay. And I guarantee if you work on improving yourself, it will have a profound effect, not only on that one teen, but on your entire family and on you. I see it in myself, and I see it in other people who have really, really worked on themselves. And the chaggim are all about becoming a better version of ourselves. We don't want to stand in front of Hashem with a laundry list of the things that we're sorry for, the things we want to work on, the same laundry list we had last year and the year before, and probably the last decade or two. We want to show him God our King, that we are really making strides in changing who we are. And then the verdict for ourselves changes because we are no longer the same person we were before. So my daughter told me the story, the mango story. There was a young boy at school. It was the first day of school, and the teacher was reviewing math. So she went up to the young boy and she said to him, Joey, if I put 2 mangoes on your desk and I give you 2 more mangoes, how many mangoes will you have? And Joey looked at the teacher and he said, I'll have 5. Teacher said, maybe you didn't hear me. I put 2 mangoes on your desk and I give you 2 more mangoes. How many mangoes will you have? And he said, I'll have 5. He remembered his mother saying he likes strawberries. So she said, okay, Joey, I put 2 strawberries on your desk and I give you 2 strawberries. How many strawberries will you have? And he said, 4. Then she went back to the mango and he was still saying 5. And she said, I don't understand, Joey. You know, 2 plus 2 equals 4. And he said, you didn't ask me what 2 plus 2 is. You asked how many mangoes I will have. And I have 1 in my bag. So you put 2 on my desk, you give me 2, and I'm going to have 5. So we have to have a proper dialogue. We have to speak the same language to our kids, and we have to listen to what they have to say. So often we're so set in our way that it's my way or the highway. We don't listen. The teacher thought Joey was crazy. He didn't understand what 2 plus 2 is, but he was hearing a totally different question. And from his perspective, he was totally right. So speak to your kids about Rosh Hashana, the coming up chaggim, and see where they're holding, what they want. Some of the kids find shul unbelievably boring, the machzor unbelievably boring. Maybe they'll get something more out of reading something on h.com or another website about what the chaggim mean. Maybe they want to just come for the shofar. Maybe they just want to come for a Devar Torah. Ask them what they want, okay? It's really important that they have input of what they want to do. Make a Devar Torah at the meals that they find interesting and stimulating, so they will want to participate, or give each person a bit of homework and ask your kids, what kind of discussion do you want on Rosh Hashana? And everybody prepare a 30-second, a 1-minute blurb to share about the chaggim, about Jewish life, about living in Israel, something that they're passionate about. And mostly when you ask your kids, listen to what they're saying and validate what they say. And validate doesn't mean I agree with you, but it means I hear you say, and then you can repeat it back to them. That way they realize you are actually listening and paying attention. Okay. Are you worried that people will talk about what's going on people at shul will say, where's their kid? Or, I know their kid isn't religious anymore. So one of the great things about being Orthodox is there's a mechitza, and the mechitza is supposed to remind us that we're in shul to daven to God. We shouldn't be caring what people are wearing and who's coming in with who. We are supposed to be concentrating on our prayers, especially the high holidays. So again, the same thing I said before, if people are going to talk, that's their problem. They are taking time away from their tefillah and thinking or speaking lashon hara. It shows a lack on their part. It doesn't reflect anything on you. Encourage your children to come to the meals. Maybe they don't want to come for the blessings. Maybe they don't want to come for the simanim, or maybe they only want to come for the simanim. Let them come to the parts they want. That isn't ideal. Of course, we want our kids to come for the whole meal, but we're talking about reality, what's happening in my family and what's happening in your family. And we can no longer go by what's ideal. We have to go by what works. And then we hope to grow with what works. So it's much better that your kid come for parts of the meal than not to come at all. They have to know they're wanted, they're loved, they're appreciated for being there for whatever part. And that's how I've been dealing with Shabbos meals with my kids is I want them to come. They're invited. Sometimes they miss the blessing, sometimes they miss the benching, but they show up usually for most of it because they like the talking to the family. One of my sons a few weeks ago went away for Shabbat, and he was going to some friends, and I said to my girls that I was worried that he would have a weekend totally void of Shabbat, that he'd miss all the blessings and any kind of Kedusha in the week. And he came home from Shabbat Saturday night, and I said, how was it? He said, great. It was yours. I said, great. And then the following week, he said, Ma, Friday night services are so incredibly boring. I said, when was the last time you were at Friday night services? And he said, I went last Friday night at my friend's. There were 5 of us together, and 2 of the boys were datim and 3 of us weren't, but we weren't going to let them go to services without us. So we all went to Friday night services, and he said everything was 100% kosher. We did the blessings, we benched. And I thought, wow, you just have to leave the door open a little bit. So I had him read over what I was saying today. And he said, oh, by the way, do you know, I was at Slichot. I said, what? When? He said, last night. I said, this is 2 nights ago, Tuesday night. I said, what? He said, yeah, I went to Slichot. I said, what time? He said, you go to Slichot at 11:30. That's when I went. So I was again blown away that he voluntarily went to Slichot with his friends. You just never know what's going to stick and what isn't. And then again, as I said, you compliment, you appreciate, and you hope it'll grow. And if it doesn't, you still appreciate that they're connected in some manner. Let's see what else. So I know it takes courage, okay, to leave the path that you've grown up in. We live in a religious community. It takes courage to buck the trend in the community, to be the exception. And my kids are carving out their own future. They are sifting through what works for them now, things that they like, things that they don't like, defining themselves and defining their core values. Thank God their core values are good. And they're trying on a whole bunch of things, what feels right. And nothing is permanent. For now, it feels right not to. 6 months, the whole situation can change. We just don't know. They're searching who they are. I remember going through that as a young woman also. I was searching, who am I? Who do I want to be? I tried on various different guises until I figured out who I was. And that didn't happen until I was in my 30s. And I know with me and my kids, all of my kids, what binds us is so much greater than what separates us. And I just want to read this little prayer that I got from Nava Pasternak when she was writing about something near and dear to her. So when I pray on Rosh Hashana, I can add my own silent prayer. I can pray for a year of acceptance, a year of balance, a year of dialogue, a year of empathy, a year of focusing on my kids' greatness. I pray for a year of mutual understanding, a year of respect, and a year of love. I will pray for a year in which we are all authentic and true to ourselves, that we see beyond the exteriors, that we find common ground and focus on what we share. Okay, that's the end of what she said. I can view this challenge as a way to get to know my kids better than ever and appreciate all their strengths. To turn away from, I just read that, I apologize. My kids are thinkers, they're not followers, and that's going to stand them in great stead. And it also means with these qualities that they can come back in any way, shape, or form, taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and connecting in ways that really touch their heart. We need to show them, our kids, all of our kids, whether they're on or off our path, the best face of Judaism, and that is to show up as our best self. If our kids see us working on ourselves all the time and being consistent and not being life of hypocrisy. One of the rabbis I listened to said, parents spend tens of thousands of dollars for a Jewish day school education. And one of the things they stress is honesty. You have to be honest. You have to be honest. And then he was telling me, he was at a friend's house and he was meeting with one of the people in his synagogue, and the phone rang and he told his kid to answer the phone. And the kid yelled, "Pa, it's tzedakah." And the father yelled, "Tell them I'm not home." So the rabbi said, there went $100,000 of day school education down the drain. We have to be consistent, okay? And if we're not, we have to tell them that we messed up. Kids also really like it when we apologize or when we say we've slipped up. Okay. So to sum up this Rosh Hashanah, focus on what you need to do to improve within your locum of control. And our locum of control is this. Okay. I don't have any control over any of them. I can only lead by example. Ignore what other people are saying. That is their problem, not yours. Speak to your kids and really listen without judging what they're saying and validate by repeating it. Remember the story of the mask, that we become the person we want to become by putting those efforts forward. Okay, we can change the reality. We can take the mask off and the person under the mask is the same person. Our kids are multidimensional just like we are, and we have to appreciate who they are and where they are. And remember, Hashem is in charge. He is responsible for the end result. Okay, we are only responsible for the effort. He is responsible for the end result. That's not our doing. Okay, so enjoy your kids, embrace them, give them special prayers on Rosh Hashanah. Thank them for where they are. You know, if our kids grow up respecting who we are, if they love their family, we're grateful. It's like Dayenu. Our kids are awesome. And some of our best leaders had kids who not only weren't on the derech, but were kids that we just would not want to have. Like David HaMelech, his kid tried to kill him. Okay, we don't have to go very far in the Tanakh to find examples of tzaddikim who had kids full of challenges much worse than ours. Okay, Hashem does not give us anything that's not meant for our personal growth. So embrace the challenge, love your kids, appreciate their greatness, and enjoy every aspect of Rosh Hashanah because it's your holiday. All right, sending you love, Shana Tova to you and yours. Have a great day and have a great hug and Shabbat Shalom.